The term animation was derived from the Latin word animatio, if I'm fucking pronouncing that right, which means bestowing of life. I think what makes animation as a medium so special is that it has the ability to give life to stories and worlds that otherwise couldn't have existed. And anime has proven that it has the ability to bring to life some of the most unique stories out there. That is precisely why I fell in love with it. And I recently finally got around to watching a show that I've been meaning to watch for a while now. A show that has cemented the fact that even now, there are still plenty of fresh and unique stories coming out of this modern day. Today, we are talking about Ranking of Kings. Ranking of Kings started not as a serialized manga, but as a webcomic. Author Sosuke Toka began publishing it to the website Manga Hack, a place where any user can upload their own manga to. I kind of wish there were some English translations for some of this stuff here, because there's a lot of weird and interesting manga on the site that I wish I could give a read. But it's through this website that Ranking of Kings got its start. The series would eventually gain enough popularity for it to get a physical release. This would then catch the eye of Wit Studio, who began work on an adaptation of the manga. And in 2021, they would release the Ranking of Kings anime. Let's address the elephant in the room here. The show has a pretty interesting art style. Everyone's heard the term, don't judge a book by its cover. And, you know, there's probably some scenarios where it's a good idea to judge them, but Ranking of Kings is not one of those. Don't let its cutesy art style fool you. It might be off-putting to some people at first, and when I initially saw it, I was kind of thrown off myself, but pretty quickly I fell in love with it. The designs are beautifully simplistic. You can get a pretty good base idea of these characters just by a quick look at them. And I love how exaggerated and sometimes goofy the designs can get. It makes the cooler looking characters stand out a lot more because of the contrast between them.
I'm looking for a white lady that's tattooed and dominant and be willing to put me in a dress and beat the shit out of me.
And these characters, despite having such simple designs, are anything but simple. Each and every one of them feels layered and complex. None of these guys are completely good or evil. They are these morally gray individuals that all have differing allegiances and motivations that make the conflicts in the story so much more engaging to me. It's harder to predict what they'll do in any given scenario. I'm just a big fan of stories with morally gray characters. It's always interested me more than another good versus evil narrative. Despa is probably my favorite person here, but Boji is also such a lovable character. His optimism and kindness is magnetic, and even with everything he has stacked against him, his sheer will to never give up no matter what happens to him makes it impossible not to root for the guy. And I mean, just look at him. King Desha is also pretty high up there for me. I feel like when we inevitably get to see more of him in the future, he might go up my ranking a bit. We'll have to see. Though I do find myself conflicted about a certain major character and how their story is resolved. But your guys' feelings on that might differ from mine. It also might just be a testament to this story's ability to create these morally gray characters.
My care provider, Jonaz, is a part of the New World Order. They're trying currently to get our semen.
The simplicity of the art style also allows the animators to just go nuts here. This has to be one of the most gorgeous shows to come out in a while. Every episode is filled to the brim with so many beautiful pieces of animation, and where this is especially apparent is in the fights. Each and every one of them are brutal. Whenever any character engages in combat, it feels like there's always some lasting consequence. They lose limbs, are heavily injured, and even when they win, most of the time it's not without a heavy cost. It gives each altercation this real weight to them. And that's without even talking about the actual combat here. The fights are these hard-hitting, palpable feeling encounters. Just look at how good this spear thrust feels. And each and every punch has a weight to it. The characters have their own unique fighting styles that makes all of the fights unique in their own way. And almost every one of them looks incredible. Like I said, Wit Studio is behind the show. the same people responsible for Attack on Titan and Vinland Saga Season 1. So it's no surprise that this show looks so incredible. And I gotta talk about the backgrounds. I'm a real sucker for some good looking backgrounds, and there is no shortage of them here. They all have this gorgeous watercolor aesthetic going on. These are able to capture the wonder of this fantasy world perfectly. They're all just so damn pretty, man. And each piece of lore we learn about this world builds upon this expansive universe the show takes place in, with all of the different kingdoms that have their own politics, cultures, rulers, and history. There is still so many questions I have. Who were these supposed gods? The truth of the demons? What are all the other kingdoms like? And what's going on with the ranking of kings? Who was this number 1 ranked king, and what happened to him? These kinds of questions are everywhere throughout the show, and they just brew in your mind as you're watching. The small portions of the world we ended up getting to see makes me so excited for what the rest of the story has in store. I think it's super interesting that a manga, which started out on some random webcomic website, managed to get picked up by one of the most acclaimed anime studios in recent years. It's a nice little success story. The author began publishing the manga when he was 41 and still working as a salaryman. In interviews, he has stated that his parents don't even know that he is a manga artist. They still think he's a regular salaryman, and even after the release of the anime, he hasn't told them. Toka says the reason he hasn't said anything is because they're just old-fashioned types who wouldn't have any understanding of manga as a career. And, you know, I hope someday he's able to proudly tell his parents about what he's managed to create. Because Ranking of Kings is really something special. There were certain aspects where I don't think it was as good as it could have been. Mostly in the last arc, but by no means was it ever bad. And when the show is good, it's really good. I desperately hope that this anime will be continued for another season, because this story seems to have so much more to offer. The manga just recently returned after an over 2-year-long hiatus, so the future is looking pretty bright for this series. And I think a show as unique as this deserves every bit of attention that it gets. My name has been Goob. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time.